It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Wednesday. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story tonight, we're talking all about this Greenland deal. Dude. Every single time. Trump always chickens out. That's the only thing you can count on this guy to do. Every time you get excited for something, every time you think it's going to be good, chickens out. Our featured story is about the meeting in Davos, Switzerland today, the World Economic Forum. Trump attended, gave a speech. He met with the Secretary General of NATO, and they discussed this Greenland issue. And we will talk about some of the back and forth. As you know, Trump threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all goods from a select number of European countries, which would hit in June. In retaliation, the European Union has suspended the implementation of a 2025 trade agreement with the United States. Well, after negotiations today, Trump says there is a framework deal for Greenland. Here's what we know about it. The red line for Denmark and for the rest of the European Union, for the European NATO countries, is that the United States can never own Greenland. That's their red line. We're never going to get it. We're never going to have it. So what does the deal look like? Well, they say it will mirror a security agreement that the United Kingdom has with Cyprus, where parts of Greenland will be sovereign U.S. territory, and we will have veto power over whether China and Russia invest in their minerals and other projects in Greenland. We don't actually get it. We don't actually have it. So what the fuck are we doing? We'll talk about it, and we'll get into some of the geopolitics. Honestly, it seems that Trump just messed this one up. Too aggressive, galvanized Europe and Greenland against the acquisition, basically made it impossible. And now we have to settle for something that we sort of already had. It's really just codifying the existing arrangement where we have almost total freedom to operate inside Greenland, and we can apply pressure to prevent them from making agreements with other countries. Just that now it's going to be written. Okay, so what? So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk tonight about the giant military buildup in the Middle East. And there's a new report from the Wall Street Journal. It says that Trump is asking about decisive military options against Iran. You know what that means? That word decisive, it means they want to topple the regime. They want to use military force to bring down the government. Trump is asking his aides, how can we do something decisive there? He means, how are we going to overthrow the government of Iran and have regime change? To that end, he is putting an aircraft carrier strike group in the region. He's deploying all kinds of military transport, aircraft, a number of aircraft that will help with defending Israel and U.S. bases, deploying radar systems, missile defense systems, in anticipation of potentially wave after wave of airstrikes against Iran. So it looks like we're going back. And if you look at the betting markets, they're putting at a 70% chance. It's actually really more like 90% chance that we're going back to war in Iran before the end of the year. So we'll talk about that too. Should be a pretty good show. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Check out our merch store, Fuentes.store. We have a brand new item for sale to commemorate the birthday of Jeffrey Epstein. We have our brand new USA quarter zip on sale. Hey, take a look at it. Just take a look. Just go to the website, go to the store, just take a look, check it out. Fuentes.store, we have our USA quarter zip, very patriotic. It's actually quite patriotic. It's blue. It has a little red logo that says USA. It's got an American flag patch on the sleeve. Very patriotic. Very sharp. Very in right now. And actually, so many people tried to buy it last night, it crashed the website. It's our number 2 seller already for the month, and it's only been on sale for about 24 hours. Crashed the site. We've sold hundreds of them already. Get yours while you can. And by the way, I did check. People were saying, oh, it's probably all polyester. I believe it's 80% cotton, 20% polyester. So it's a high quality material. Make sure to get it. They ship in 2 to 4 weeks. I think I'll have mine sooner, and I can't wait to wear it on a casual Friday. All kinds of people were freaking out. People were saying, I can't believe he's selling this shirt. Harry Sisson did like a 60-second promo for it. I saw on TikTok, Harry Sisson made a big stink. He said, we're glorifying Jeffrey Epstein. I said, Jeffrey Epstein's cool. Harry Sisson said, well, he's actually very fucking a monster. I said, okay, well, still has drip. Or still has aura. So Harry Sisson actually put up the website with the link. I appreciated it. He put up the link to the store where people could buy it. All the comments were like, this is fresh. We like it. We like the shirt. They're going to buy it. So check it out. We're going to give Harry Sisson a promo code 17. All caps. That's a joke. It won't actually work. Remember also to check out our subscription website, americafirst.plus, $15 a month to get access to the entire archive, every show, every commentary stream, debate, speech, all of it, going back 10 years, as well as in MP3 format, RSS feed. It's all up there, americafirst.plus, $100 a month. You get into the group chat with me. I'm going off in there all the time, doing bonus content, 30-minute voice messages, inside baseball, drama, details, everything you want, but it's only for rich people. If you're poor, don't apply. It's only for ballers. It's only for the aspirationally rich, the actually rich. That's the only people I want to see in there. No brokies. Okay? No brokies, no dirtbags, $100 a month. And you get to chop it up with the... So that's americafirst.plus. With that, we're going to dive into the show. Kind of a slow news day, honestly, outside of this Davos thing. Before I get into the news, I do want to talk a little bit more about the Clubacost, is what they're calling it. The Clubacost, Songacost. This is like close in terms of how horrific it is to the Holocaust. They're calling it the Clubacost. This is my first trip to the club when a song was played at a nightclub in Miami Beach, which offended Jewish people everywhere. 6 million ears were accosted by the song in what is being called the Clubacost. We're entering like day 5 of this. We got some updates for you. Get a load of this. The mayor and the commissioner of the city of Miami Beach have now invited the owners of the Vendome Club that I went to on Saturday to make a trip to the Holocaust Museum of Miami Beach. I'm not making this up. That's their move. There's an anti-Semitic incident. They bring everybody to the Holocaust Museum, write a book report. So the mayor of the city is bringing the club owners of Vendome to the Holocaust Museum for a lecture, for a book report. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that Patrick Bet-David interview from yesterday with Andrew Tate, because I actually had a chance last night to sit down and watch the entire thing. And I want to make something very clear about that whole situation. So as you know, I went to the club on Saturday for the first time with Clav, Sneeko, Myron, Fresh, Andrew and Tristan Tate, Justin Waller. We go to the club. We got a great time. have a great time. We're singing, dancing, Red Bull is flowing. And as you know, the infamous song by Kanye West comes on. The DJ plays it, Heil Hitler by Ye. Now, Miami Beach is a very Jewish city. Everybody is offended. There's all sorts of political pressure, fallout. Everybody's getting in trouble. Everybody's blaming each other. Following day, Andrew Tate goes on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. Actually, I believe it was on Monday. He goes on the podcast. And everybody says that Andrew Tate is selling out, that he backed down, that he kissed the wall, all this kind of stuff. Because Andrew Tate goes on the show and says, well, hey, I didn't play the song, and I didn't like it, and it's not my fault, and I'm being blamed for it, and so on. And everybody is criticizing Andrew Tate. Everybody is saying that he caved, that's not top G, that's Matrix behavior, etc. And I said yesterday on the show, you got to keep in mind that Andrew Tate is under the gun in a few jurisdictions, in Romania, in the United Kingdom, in the United States. If he's not careful, he will go to jail. Okay, he will go to prison for like 10 years at least. He is up a creek without a paddle. He really cannot afford to take a lot of risks. And so for that reason, I sympathize. But you know what? I watched the entire interview last night, and I actually got to sit and see the whole thing in its entirety. And I think the real person to blame in all of this is Patrick Bet-David. I watched the whole thing. And if you watch the entire thing, you see Andrew Tate goes on the show and they bring this up and they talk about it for a couple of minutes. And Patrick says, I don't want to talk about this for too long. We should just move on. 2 minutes in, it drags on for 50 minutes. 50 minutes that Patrick Bet-David and his two co-hosts, mind you, these are all guys that are pushing 50 years old. Okay? They're all 50. These are grown men, supposedly serious businessmen, supposedly anti-woke, pro-Trump businessmen. They're crying for 50 minutes about a song. And I said this on Telegram, take a step back for a second. Take a step back, forget all of your assumptions, all your prejudices, everything that you know about the way the world works. Take a step back. What actually happened on Saturday night? A song was played in a nightclub. That's it. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got stabbed, shot, trampled, stampeded. Nobody got raped, molested, drugged. Nobody did any drugs. A group of guys went to a nightclub, played a song for 30 seconds with controversial lyrics. Song ended, everybody went home, everybody was fine. Objectively speaking, this is not a big deal. This doesn't matter. Nobody was even affected. Nobody was hurt. It is not a big deal. The reason that it is a big deal, the reason it is elevated to a crisis is because it offended the wrong people. Because Jews run the city of Miami and Miami Beach. They control South Florida because they are very powerful there, like gangsters. And they are so over the top and so oppressive that they will not tolerate being offended even for a minute. And they are using emotional blackmail and guilt tripping and cry bullying to punish anybody that has a problem with them. Anybody that dares to make a joke at their expense or offend them, they're abusing their ill-gotten power through gangster cartel tactics to now penalize those people, punish those people. And the message is clear. You don't insult Jewish people in this city because we run this town. And we're in our feelings about a song and nobody offends us in this town. We run this place. That's the message. And that's bullshit. This is America. America's run by the people, of, by, and for the people, with God-given, constitutionally protected rights, and that goes above and beyond freedom from government persecution. It means a climate of free speech. So we should be free from intimidation. We should be free from cartels and gangsters. We should be free from this kind of ethnic, clannish, gangster type behavior. The only reason anybody is talking about it is because we all know there's a double standard. You can't offend these people. They're the biggest cry bullies in the world. They have all this power. They're the most brutal, unscrupulous people in the world. They defend genocide. They defend brutality, the murder of women and children. But if you play a song that offends them for 30 seconds, they're going to cry and play the victim. We're the victim. We're powerless. We're hurt. Now we're going to use all our power to punish everybody. It's so over the top and so ridiculous and woke. Nobody should stand for it. And honestly, Patrick Bet-David, you should know better. You're a grown man. You claim to be a patriot. You're a 47-year-old man. And you have this whole shtick, I'm an alpha male, I'm a businessman, I'm no nonsense, I'm not woke. You're buying into this crap? You're buying into this? What a joke. You should know better. Everybody should know better. And you should have your friends back. Andrew Tate is your friend. He's been on your show for years. He is being unfairly attacked, and he is forced to defend himself because he is vulnerable. Why are they going after him? Because he is vulnerable, because he is a political target. He's vulnerable because he's in between jurisdictions. He's one of the most wanted men in the world. And you know as well as anybody else, this is completely over the top. It is an overreaction. It is purely political. It is not proportionate. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. It is woke. And they're coming after your friend and they're making him crawl on his belly because they know they got him by the balls, because they know he's in trouble. And you, as a man and as a patriot, as a guy, should understand that. And you should see that, and you should have your friends back. If you want to tell them behind the scenes, man to man, hey, that wasn't really a good idea, you've got a promising career, that was childish. You want to tell them that man to man out of concern? You do that behind the scenes. You do that off camera. In front of the camera, you present a united front. Your friend is under attack. It's bullshit. It is a crock of shit. You know it. Everybody knows it. These people are cry bullies. They're gangsters. It's a double standard. Everyone knows it. Everyone is sick of it. You should have your friends back. You should have sat them down and you should have said, you know what? It's trolling. It's dumb. It's childish, but it is unfair what they're saying about you. I know you. You're a good guy. You're not hateful. This is completely exaggerated. That should have been your response. That is what any real man would say. Anybody that is a true adult, a true guy, no nonsense conservative should be able to see what this is. And it's a load of crap and should have their friends back. And as a patriot should say, this is un-American to be crying and carrying on about all this stuff. What do you have to say about the ADL issued a statement? The club fired 3 people? The mayor of the city says this is a crisis? You don't got nothing to say about all that? You think that's normal? You think that's chill? Do you think that even makes sense? Is that normal? It's insane. Instead, we get a 50-minute struggle session. You let your emotional co-host, who is a Jew, and by the way, this little Jew, he offends everybody. He offends women. He offends Muslims. He offends black people. He's very politically incorrect. He came up to me when I was in your studio and said, yeah, we shouldn't let women vote, and we got a problem with black people, and we got to fight these Muslims. That's the kind of guy he is. When somebody plays a troll, controversial edgelord song and Jews are the butt of the joke, what does he say on your show? He says, and I quote, Florida is where racism goes to die. Oh, really? So we as big tough guys, big anti-woke, no nonsense tough guys, listen up, youngster, I'm 50 years old. We can offend black people. We can offend women. We can offend Muslims. We can offend everybody. Oh, a Jew was the butt of a joke in a song? Oh, well, now we're anti-racist. Now it's not enough to be not racist. We must be anti-racist. If you sit at a table, if 10 people sit at a table with one racist, there's 11 racists. Oh, now we're woke, huh? And now you're going to let the aggrieved minority hijack the whole conversation, and he turns it into a struggle session. On and on and on and another thing and another thing, and you should have known better, and we don't play those games here. We don't play songs that offend Jews here. Really? This is a deficit of courage. This is a deficit of balls. That's what this is. Where's the balls? Huh? And you know what's funny? Patrick Bet-David had Bibi Netanyahu on the show. I think they gave him less of a hard time about being a war criminal than Andrew Tate playing a song. Yeah, think of that. Benjamin Netanyahu is a wanted war criminal. He is charged by his own government for corruption, credibly accused of committing a genocide. You have him on the show, you barely press him about that. Andrew Tate comes on the show, you press him for 50 minutes because he was present while a song played in a nightclub in South Beach. Really? Does that make any sense to anybody? Does that even make sense? And it's on the men, because you expect, especially the older guys, you expect the older guys to be able to call balls and strikes and say, you know what, this is woke garbage, this is PC, this is emotional, this is over the top. You expect grown men to be able to call out the nonsense, not to drink the Kool-Aid, not to buy into it. He's going to go and participate in this humiliation ritual. I'm watching this round table of guys that are lecturing me. You're childish, you're immature, you need to grow up, you shouldn't say these things. This is a round table. These guys are pushing 40, pushing 50, crying for 50 minutes about a song because that's what everyone's supposed to do because the Jews are mad. Really? Where's the courage? And that's really what it comes down to in this country. Everybody knows what is going on, but everybody is afraid to call these people out on their crap. That's really what it is. Everybody knows Netanyahu has us by the balls. Everybody knows AIPAC has us by the balls. Everybody knows there's this double standard. We all get offended all the time. We are all offended all the time. The sensibilities of every group, every ethnic group, every religious group, the young and the old, the men and the women, we're all offended. Everyone has a grievance. Everybody else has to suck it up. People are putting out rhetoric against any other group. Hey man, suck it up. Free country. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, these people get offended. It's literally an international incident. We're invoking the Holocaust, etc. And just don't build your brand on fighting PC and woke garbage if you're going to give into it when it actually counts. So they did him really dirty. Everybody's blaming Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's in a shitty situation. I don't envy him at all. He found himself in this unfortunate controversy that no one really could have seen coming. It's one of those things that just happens. Is it preventable? Yes, but then you can't really live your life. He can't really double down because he's in sort of a contentious situation. And his buddy should really have his back. His buddy should be firing on all cylinders. And you don't have to defend the actual action, but defend your guy. They're going to give him a little talking to. He's in the principal's office. You should have left the car. Why'd you think that was okay? You should have turned the song off. Oh, come on now. Really? I mean, it reminds me literally of when I was in middle school. It reminds me of the kind of crap that you and your buddies would get called into the principal's office for in middle school. You're in there with your other 12-year-old buddies in the principal's office, and they're saying, who played the song? Well, Sneeko played it. Oh, well, Myron played the song. Well, why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you get up and turn the song off? Our code of conduct says we keep our hands and feet to ourselves, and we respect everyone at all times. I mean, really? These are 50-year-old men. 50-year-old anti-woke, hey, I'm a no-nonsense business guy. Get so real. Shame on you. Shame on you. You should know better. There is no excuse. But these guys are just like NPCs. They're just enforcers of the political order. You know, if all you care about is money, if that's all you care about is money, career, status, then you're going to get thrown for a loop by this stuff. Does anybody care enough to stand on business to defend the principle of the matter? That's the question, you know? Because the whole lecture was like, hey, Andrew Tate, you know, you make all this money. You know what Patrick told him? He said at this college basketball game or something, Trump is in the box with Dana White and Jake Paul. He goes, you belong in that room. So is that really what it's all about, man? It's all just about making money and posing for pictures in a box seat at a fucking sports game? That's what it's all about? Hey, man, I know you're living your life, having fun and everything like that. But if you don't kiss the wall, if you don't wear your kippah and kiss the wall and pretend to give a shit about the Holocaust like it's not all a load of crap, you know, you'll never be able to aura farm in the box with Trump, and everyone on social media is going to say, ooh, Top G is with Trump at the Indiana-Miami basketball game. Is that really what it's all about, for a bunch of douchebags to dap each other up? Oh, look! Dana White and this guy dapped each other up in the box at the big game. Come on, man. It's got to be bigger than that. It's got to be deeper than that. Does anyone even care enough to defend the principle of the matter? That's the difference. It's like, you know, I get these lectures all the time, and I care about freedom. Freedom to live your life. Freedom to do what you think is right. Freedom to make jokes. Freedom to say what you want. Yeah, go ahead. Fucking cancel me. Because at the end of the day, you could be very rich and have a lot of status, but if you're living in fear of this kind of stuff, you can't go out with the guys and make a little joke without living in fear. You know, are you really free? Are you all that powerful? Or are you just kind of like the biggest slave on the plantation? Are you just being paraded around and dressed up as a regime puppet for the puppet show? Oh, here we go. Here's this one, and here they are in the box. And we dress them in the finest linens and we furnish them with a lavish house and lifestyle. And these are your appointed leaders. I mean, yeah, count me out of that whole thing. But that was the appeal. That was sort of the funny thing. He goes, you know, you belong in that room with those guys. Okay, so that's what it's all about, I guess, huh? Gotta dap each other up. It's just infuriating that this is what the country's come to. And like I said, it's because of fear, cowardice. People care about all the wrong things. Where's the solidarity? It should have been, everybody should have stood shoulder to shoulder and said, you know what? Yeah, we played the song. Fuck off. Not a big deal. Instead, you get, you know, not everybody, but people pointing the finger and coming after each other. You get this struggle session, really, on valuetainment. I'm sorry, what is this, Rachel Maddow? What are we on, The View? I mean, it's indistinguishable. If you go and play that song at the club, you're getting the same treatment on valuetainment as you are on The View. You go on The View with a bunch of broads, and they're going to say, what made you think that's okay? Isn't that offensive? Oh my gosh, you know, that's terrible. You know, these people are terrible. You're the company you keep. I mean, it would be the same thing, wouldn't it be? A bunch of shrieking harpies. It would be indistinguishable from the club. We're in the club smoking cigars, Blue Label only. You know, we're all big shots. Well, why'd you play this song? Come on now. Are we better than that? Gosh, you know, but nobody has the courage of their convictions to just say, I don't feel guilty. I don't feel ashamed. This is stupid. This is ridiculous. This disgusting freak that is the mayor of Miami Beach. Just look at him. Just look at him. The mayor of Miami Beach is a disgusting, ugly freak. And so are the city commissioners. They're disgusting, ugly freaks. And they don't even belong here. You want to know where the mayor of Miami Beach comes from? He left his position at the SEC because he was constantly being accused of being a pervert. So that was plan B. Plan B, after you get chased out for being accused of being a pervert, is then you go and you run Miami Beach on behalf of the Jewish interest there with the other commissioners that are children of Israelis. And we bow to them. He's walking around the city to his kippah. You're not welcome here. Really? Come on. And they got this guy on the show, guys pushing 50, no wife, no kids, talking about, I'm the coolest guy in the club. Bro, you're 50. There are no 50-year-olds that are the coolest guy in the club. I hate to break it to you, hotshot, Jew boy. I take you to the coolest clubs. I'm up all night. Okay, you're an unmarried, childless, 50-year-old man wearing sneakers with your suit. You think you're a big shot because you're in the club? Yeah. You're the biggest shot 50-year-old in South Beach. Seriously, grow the fuck up, all of you. Enough. That's really the rallying cry. Enough. We're sick of all of it. I watched that interview and it charges me all up all over again. You know, people say I'm moderating, I strike a conciliatory tone. I see stuff like that and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why. That's why we went down this path, because I will never bow to that kind of nonsense. Sorry for playing a song. I should have known better. I should have turned it off. I should have left. A song. Crazy. But you know, people are cowed and they are hurted and they will do anything under social pressure. That's the true test. So anyway, that's my little add-on to last night. I actually saw the thing, and I got to say, direct your fire on at them. Andrew Tate's in a bad situation. I know people don't like what he said. I don't love what he said. But understand the circumstances he's in. If he makes a wrong move, they put him in a cage. They put him in solitary for 10 years. Okay, he goes to the United Kingdom. He's extradited. They put him under the jail. He's treated like a terrorist. Okay, I get it. He didn't even apologize. He didn't double down. He didn't go 10 toes down and everything like that. He didn't really apologize, though. And they got him really under the gun. It's Patrick Bet-David's fault for subjecting him to that. He should have had his back. No loyalty. Every man for themselves. Crabs in a barrel. So, I'll stick up for Tate. I'll stick up for Sneeko. And you know what? You know, the Tates are trying to blame Sneeko. It wasn't just Sneeko. Myron played the song too. Fresh helped him. Sneeko put it on in the car. Clav helped him. I loved it. You know, we all played a part in this. We were all there. And the whole thing is dumb. So everybody should be united and say, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. You're making a bigger deal out of it than it is, but instead it's going to devolve into, you know, people are going to accept the judgment from our Jewish overlords. We're all going to die because of the song. Give me a break. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I got to defend my guys here. I love the Tates, love Sneeko, love Myron, the rest of them, you know. And can live? Can a live? Can we go to the club and play a song that might offend some people without it turning into an international controversy? So, and I would love to hear the rebuttal. What's the rebuttal to that? You buy into this shit? We got to stop being ruled and blackmailed in this way. Well, they did play that song. Okay, so what? The Jews do provocative things all the time. All the time. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to get into this stuff about the Trump administration. Our featured story for tonight is about this Greenland deal. And you know what? It's very disappointing. As you know, I've been very critical of the Trump administration. I've been very critical of the personnel, the policies, Trump's refusal to follow through on anything. And as you know, I got very excited about this Greenland deal. And I went into it in great detail, I believe on Thursday or Friday. And I said that the reason I love the idea of taking Greenland by force or whatever, but basically expanding America, growing America, I said, is because this is what gets Americans excited about the future. The arrow is pointing up, expansion, increasing. That America is dreaming, America's getting bigger. I like this conceptually. The idea that there is still history to be resolved here, that we're still a part of history. I like this. And so when Trump was pushing this so hard the past couple of weeks that we were going to go in and take Greenland and we have to have it and we're going to get it and we'll stop at nothing, I really supported it. And I made my case very systematically on Friday. And I will restate it very briefly now. The reason that we need to actually have Greenland, well, let's start with why Greenland is strategically important. Greenland is a part of the Western Hemisphere. Greenland is what connects North America to the other NATO countries. If you look at it, it is on the northwest frontier is what they call it. It's on our northern frontier. It borders Canada, Iceland. Iceland borders the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom borders France and Denmark. Greenland connects this entire Atlantic alliance. This is very strategically important territory. And as the northern ice sheet melts, the Arctic Ocean becomes an area of strategic competition. All kinds of things are happening there. Commercial shipping routes, submarines are moving through there, potentially naval vessels are moving through there. And if we engage China or Russia with strategic weapons, ICBMs will be flying over Greenland. They can be detected and intercepted over Greenland and Canada. So long story short, Greenland is very important territory, controlling choke points between Greenland and Iceland, Iceland and the UK, controlling these future shipping routes in the Arctic Ocean. Situated in the middle, 2,000 kilometers from DC, 2,000 kilometers from Moscow, in the middle of that trajectory from where ICBMs will strike the United States. This is why it's strategically important. Maybe you could say succinctly because of its proximity. It's close to us. It's close to Canada. It's close to us. If someone gains control of Greenland, they gain access to Canada. They gain access to Canada. They gain access to the United States. And so it's comparable in value to Alaska. It's comparable in value to Canada, Puerto Rico, Cuba. It's very valuable strategically. Now, why do we absolutely have to have it? The reason is the northern ice sheet is going to melt over a period of decades. It will take time for these developments to come to bear. It's not a strategically important region now, not as much as it will be in the future. And a lot of things might change in these intervening 10, 20, or 30 years. Leadership changes in the United States, in Canada, in Europe. The balance of power will change between the United States and China. The alignment will change, perhaps, between Europe and the United States, between Russia and China, between China and East Asian countries. Nothing is guaranteed. And so when this strategic area becomes active in a few decades or a couple of decades, as long as that territory is controlled by Denmark, well, Denmark will never be able to defend this territory ever from China or Russia or the United States. Any interested great power who would need it, and it's a zero-sum game, Denmark is never going to be able to repel an incursion. All of Europe will never be able to repel an incursion. And Russia and China know that. And so in 10, 20, 30 years, this is very vital territory. The region becomes active. Denmark and Europe cannot repel an invasion. China and Russia might test the boundaries here. And they might try to gain a foothold. Who knows how? By investment, some ruse that there's a commercial project, Maybe they land some troops there. Who knows? And once it's done, it can't be undone. Once they gain the foothold, it can't be undone. And you can't scramble the troops there. China or Russia will have already established a beachhead. And we're not going to go to war over Danish territory. We're not going to go to war over a semi-autonomous Danish province or something, some protectorate. It's questionable whether those Article 5 protections will be invoked. And so then we just lose it. Now, what makes it viable for China or Russia to test the waters? What makes it viable for China and Russia to test and see if that's a tripwire? What makes it viable is that it is technically sovereign Danish territory. And as long as all that shoreline and all that territory is technically Danish, they know that the United States is less than likely to defend it. Compare that to California. China knows that if they set foot in California, it's war. You're in a war. You're in a shooting war. You're in a full-scale total war until that is undone. Why? Because it's U.S. soil. It is sovereign U.S. soil. If you overstep there, that is a violation. It's an act of war. Everyone knows that. China knows that. We know that. We know they know that. They know we know they know that. Everyone knows that. And everyone knows that we'd be perfectly justified in going to war. So what's the difference? Well, if Greenland is our territory, they won't test it. They won't push. They won't try. Because they know that if they set foot in Greenland, it's war. So there's a very black and white binary. If you're not in Greenland, you're not at war. If we invade Greenland, it's on. That's the difference. And it doesn't matter if it's commercial, if it's espionage, if it's an overt military action. They know if they land there, it's on because it's U.S. clay. If it's a Danish protectorate, well, then who knows? Would the United States go to war with a nuclear great power to protect a Danish? It's not even Danish territory. It's a semi-autonomous part of the Danish kingdom. Would the United States go to war with China over that? We don't know. We don't know. China doesn't know. We don't know what they're thinking. They don't know what we're thinking. And that's where the testing comes in. That's where the testing comes in. That's where they start to encroach gradually, incrementally. That's where they might do something minor, an incursion, and they'll have plausible deniability, and it is not an automatic tripwire activated act of war. That's why we have to have it. That's why there is no alternative to literally owning it. Sovereignty is the key word. If it's anything short of that, they're going to try something. And that could mean anything. That could mean they fund a political party that breaks from Denmark. That means they could send Chinese spies and do military surveillance or sabotage. That means, who knows, maybe they have some illicit agreement, some kind of private contract, circumstances change, or they just land a boat there. Okay? That's the difference. That's why we need it. And so when Trump said that, I was totally on the same page. I said, he's right. Maybe we don't need it today, but we absolutely will need it by 2050. And we need it to be our territory. And it is a small price to pay, whatever it was, $700 billion now, to have it in the future. Because there's only so many islands and continents. They're not making any more of them. And the great power strategic competition is only intensifying. This is an area which will become active in the coming decades. It would be absolutely essential to have it. It would be no different than if, we could have Japan as a colony or like the Philippines still as a colony or something. Like there's no price tag on it. It's sort of invaluable. So Trump said that and I was in complete agreement. I said he totally sees the big picture here. I don't know how anyone could even make the case that that has something to do with Israel. People said that's neocon. Okay, so now like everything is neocon, by the way. It sort of exists on a spectrum. If we go to war with Iran, obviously that is a war for Israel. That is like a 1.0 on the spectrum. That is the clearest cut, no uncertainty. That is a straight up war for Israel. If Israel didn't exist, it wouldn't happen. If Israel didn't exist, we would actually have good relations. We're going to war because of them in their neighborhood for their interest against their number one adversary. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Then you get maybe closer to the other side of the spectrum, Venezuela. And you go, okay, this is in our neighborhood. It's a dictator who's anti-American. He is a socialist. They have these resources that we need. It's a staging ground for our enemies like China and Russia. That being said, Maduro is somewhat supportive of Palestine. So you could say, well, Israel's like, they're not unhappy about it. They might be a little happy about this. Then you have Greenland, which is like a 0.1. And it's like, so it's not even a war at all. There's not going to be any fighting. There's no population there. It's north of Canada. It's a territory that no one really cares about. They're not anti-Israel at all. They're not pro-Palestine. They're kind of just nothing. And we're taking it, and it'll make us richer. And people are saying, yeah, but like, you know, Ronald Lauder has some projects. Yeah, I mean, the American economy is run by Jews. So, you know, like anything that America does is going to involve the Jews that control America. I see some people saying that. It's like, okay, so how does that even factor in? But anyway, we're on the same page. Trump goes to Davos. He goes to the World Economic Forum today in Switzerland. He negotiates with the NATO Secretary General, the other European counterparts, and they come out of the meeting with a framework agreement. And it involves that we will not own Greenland at all. We won't own it. It won't be ours. We don't know the details of it, but the framework that we have so far is that it might mirror, according to some reports, a security agreement between the UK and Cyprus, where some parts of the island are technically sovereign British territory, where they have military installations. And so I guess it's an indefinite deal. The United States will be able to veto investment from other countries. We'll be able to expand our military footprint there. And parts of Greenland, which will become military installations, will be sovereign U.S. territory. That's what the framework agreement is looking like. And this is a story from the Washington Post. It says, quote, President Trump said Wednesday that he had reached the framework of a deal on Greenland, backing away from his earlier demands to acquire the Danish territory. Declaring that he would scrap planned tariffs on Europe, Trump said talks were underway with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte about bolstering security in the Arctic. The president offered few details, but the deal was likely to fall far short of the full sovereign possession that he previously demanded. Denmark's top diplomat said the United States would not own the island. Trump removing the tariff threat takes the heat out, said the Danish foreign minister. He said the United States will not own Greenland. That is a red line. So for them, they say we refuse any deal where the U.S. is going to take the territory. Discussions will focus instead on ensuring Arctic security, said the NATO spokeswoman Alison Hart, including talks among Denmark, Greenland, and the United States, aimed at ensuring that Russia and China never gain a foothold economically or militarily in Greenland. Shortly after his remarks concluded, the European Parliament suspended ratification of the EU-US trade deal that Trump reached last year. In a statement, the chair of the Legislative Trade Committee said U.S. threats against Denmark and Greenland had left lawmakers no choice. The pending trade deal would have eliminated European tariffs on all U.S. industrial goods while leaving products from Europe facing a 15% tariff imposed by Trump, a structure that analysts said favored Washington. The European Union is the nation's largest trading partner. Total two-way goods trade each year is roughly $1 trillion. On the overnight flight to Davos, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles told reporters that Trump will travel next week to Iowa for a speech tailored to energy and the economy and will make weekly trips ahead of the midterm elections. Great. So this is the framework agreement. And what we can say with certainty is that Trump has chickened out. As always, Trump always chickens out. Trump chickened out. He said for weeks, he said all year, he said, we're going to have it. We're going to take it. It's got to be ours. We need it. There's no alternative. We simply have to have it. He said, we'll take it by force. We will do anything. There's no limit to what I'll do to take Greenland. He's posting on social media trolling maps of Greenland with the US flag on it. Then he goes to Europe and says, you know what, never mind. We have a great deal. And we're never going to have it, and we don't have it, but the deal says we're going to have a base there. And we're not going to let China and Russia gain a foothold. Hey, guess what? That was already the arrangement. That's been the arrangement for 70 years. That we can do what we want there. We have military installations. We got troops there. That has been the arrangement for almost a century. And we don't even have the agreement. It's not even in writing. It's not signed. And Trump comes away and says, okay, well, you know, we got this framework and this is terrific and so on. And here's what happened, fundamentally. Trump has no strategy. It's all tactics. All he knows how to do is talk on social media, give speeches, issue these maximalist threats. And what this is meant to do is keep his opponents off balance. So, example, when it comes to Greenland, Trump comes out and says, I'm going to invade Greenland. We just have to have it. This makes the Europeans nervous. It makes Greenland and Denmark and France and Germany and NATO nervous. And they start to panic and they start to talk amongst themselves. That's all Trump knows how to do, is stir the pot. All he knows how to do is to push them off balance, make them uncertain, make them insecure, so that they start to talk, so that there is some activity, and then maybe there's a starting position in a negotiation. And they come back and they say, well, we're not going to do it. And then he ups the ante. Oh, you're not going to sell me Greenland? Well, then we'll invade. And they go back and talk amongst themselves. Well, we can never defend Greenland. Well, we can never do anything. We don't want to fight with the United States. Well, what happens when they call his bluff? He keeps upping the ante. Well, we're going to have it. Well, we're going to buy it. We're preparing an offer. If you don't accept the offer, we're going to invade. We need it. You can offer us concessions, but we need to own it. Well, what happens when Europe calls his bluff? And they say, if you're invading Greenland, we're deploying troops there. We're putting French and Norwegian and German troops there, and Canada's sending troops, and we're not going to let you take it, and we'll all leave NATO, and the trade agreement is off. What happens when they call your bluff against these maximalist threats, against these scare tactics? Bluster, bluffing, issuing empty threats. What happens when they call you on it and they say, okay, time to show your cards. Let's see what you got. They put the troops out there. They say, we won't let you take it. The Danish, or rather the Greenlanders, host a giant rally in the capital. What happens when Trump goes to Davos and says, well, we need to have it? Trump backs down. He folds. He says, yeah, you're right. We can't invade Greenland. Yeah, you're right. We're not going to invade. I was making that up. I'm full of shit. We weren't going to invade Greenland. We were never prepared to do that. We're not going to potentially be fighting Europeans in Greenland. We're not going to break apart NATO. Yeah, no, we're actually not going to do all that. We lied. We'll take your first offer. That's the story of the Trump administration. What happened is that, like with everything, he issued the threat, and like I said, that's the tactic to stir the pot. And instead of buckling to the demands, all he did was galvanize opposition. By trying to bully them, the Europeans rose to the occasion and said, you know what? You're faking it. You're bluffing. And we don't want you to take Greenland. We're not going to get bitched out by you. And they actually rallied. It had the opposite effect. He thought that they would crumble. He thought that they would falter. They rallied. And they stood unified and they said, you know what? No, you can't touch Greenland. And you want to come and try and take it? Well, we're going to up the ante too. So we actually rallied. Now it's a red line. Maybe they would have negotiated before. Who knows? Who knows if the United States could have prepared a better offer, and who knows what that looks like. But if they did it more diplomatically, who knows what could have been possible. But all he did was stir the pot. It had the opposite of the intended effect by insulting the Europeans, by daring them, He galvanized them rather than force them to cave. And when they stood up to Trump, now it has become non-viable. Now they're saying, no, our red line is you can't own it. You said your red line is owning it. Well, now our red line is you can't own it. And you can't invade it without overturning the whole world order, practically. Macron goes back to Paris and says, we need more investment from China. Canada makes a trade deal and says, we're going to take 70,000 EVs from China. European Union gets together and says that trade agreement is off. Okay, so they called your bluff. You can't do it. Now it's over. And now we get no Greenland. Now we're in the same spot that we were before. This is the story over and over again. And I'm really disappointed because that was the whole appeal of Trump, is that he's supposed to be the art of the deal, the deal maker in chief. I know what I'm doing. I'm more competent. We have stupid negotiators, this, that, and the other. I mean, where is that here? We don't have it. We're not getting it. So this was the one thing that I was actually excited about. I was excited about taking Venezuela, taking Cuba, taking Greenland, Canada. I was excited about that. Now we don't even have it. Trump chickens out on literally everything. So let's just stop with the LARP. Trump is not Caesar. Trump is not some kind of world historical figure in that way. It's all a ruse. It's all vaporware. So that's that. I want to move on, though. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Iran. Now, you want to talk about a neocon war. This fits the bill. Well, everybody was complaining about Venezuela and Greenland. There's actually a real war with Iran that is brewing. And we'll talk about this briefly, as I've been live for an hour already. Then we'll take the super chats. So as you know, a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of talk about the United States returning to Iran in light of anti-government protests that took over the western part of the country. The media was embellishing the story. There were calls for the United States to intervene, calls by Israel, by the Gulf countries, by the protesters. And we could talk about what that really entails and what that really means. But there was this pressure for the United States to go into Iran, bomb the Iranian regime, save the protesters, and topple Iran's government. What happened, as a matter of fact, is that we did not have the requisite force package to intervene during the protests. We just didn't have enough boats. Not enough boats, not enough planes, not enough missile defense. At the peak of the protests, one, they did not come close to toppling the government, which is a huge problem for this plan. Two, we didn't have enough guns there, even if we wanted to. Even if the protesters were getting ready to topple the government, and they weren't, but even if they were, we didn't have enough guns in the region to finish the job. So they pushed it back. So the Israelis and the Gulf countries, Saudis, Qataris, Turkey also, they pleaded with the administration. They said, actually, you know what? Don't go in. They said because the protests are effectively crushed. It's over. It's going in the wrong direction for them. And two, they said, if you go to war with Iran, if you initiate hostilities, you will not be able to defend your own position and Israel's. You bomb Iran, you don't topple the government. That's one. Two, they're going to fire back, and when they do, you're not going to have enough air power, sea power to be able to shoot down every drone and ballistic missile that Iran inevitably launches at U.S. bases and at Israel. So Israel and these Muslim countries are pleading with Trump, not yet, later. And that's what the Trump administration does. It calls off the strikes and then immediately starts sending this massive force package to the Middle East. A carrier strike group starts moving to the Middle East. That's an aircraft carrier equipped with all kinds of fighter aircraft. And it's also destroyers, which have missile defense systems, radar systems on there. And we start sending military transport aircraft, number of other things over there. Literally saying, all right, just wait a little bit. Help is on the way. We're going to get in position, and then we'll go to war with Iran. Well, here's the big story from yesterday. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump is asking his aides for decisive options to confront Iran. Now, for those that don't know what that translates into, when he says he wants a decisive military option, he's saying, I want to do something to Iran that topples their government. That's what decisive means. It doesn't mean we're degrading their abilities. It doesn't mean we're diminishing their abilities. It doesn't mean we're attacking a strategic target. When he says decisive, it means we are going to defeat them completely. There will be a different government. So the Trump administration is now openly talking about regime change and has been for the past couple of weeks. This is a story from the Journal. It says, quote, after pulling back from strikes on Iran last week, President Trump is still pressing aides for what he calls decisive military options, as Iran appears to have tightened its control of the country. The discussions are happening while the United States sends an aircraft carrier and jet fighters to the Middle East. Those deployments may be just the start of a broader buildup that would give Trump the firepower to strike Iran should he choose to use them. Trump has repeatedly used the word decisive when describing what effect he would like any action to have on Iran. He is yet to order the strikes, and what he ultimately will decide remains unclear. But the continued discussions show Trump has not ruled out punishing Tehran for killing protesters in the midst of Iran's spiraling economy. Asked Tuesday about whether the U.S. may yet strike Iran, Trump noted that the regime heeded Washington's warnings and canceled plans to execute 837 people last week. He said, we're going to have to see what happens. The larger question for the administration is whether a foreign regime can be dislodged through air power alone. The White House must also grapple with whether the administration is prepared to carry out a sustained military campaign that might last weeks or months should protesters again take to the streets and appeal to Trump for protection. David Deptula, a retired Air Force lieutenant general who played a key role in Desert Storm, said, there are things military options can and cannot do during a human rights crackdown. You can deter some regime behavior on the margins. If you are really signing up to change the regime, that will require significant air and ground operations. Air and ground. As the administration discusses next steps, the U.S. military has rushed more assets to the Middle East. U.S. F-15E jet fighters landed Sunday in Jordan. The aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and its strike group, which includes destroyers, F-35s, and other jet fighters and electronic jamming aircraft, were spotted by maritime traffic trackers sailing west from South China Sea toward the Persian Gulf. Additional air defenses will be brought to the region, including Patriot and THAAD anti-missile systems, which would be essential for fending off any Iranian counterblows. As the administration weighed a potential strike on Iran last week, the U.S. did not have enough military assets or air defenses to launch a sustained bombing operation or defend American troops and allies from an Iranian retaliation. So this is the plan. They're moving a carrier strike group in. They're moving military hardware into the region because we are going to war with Iran. And I told you, in the last week of December, Netanyahu came to Mar-a-Lago and said, we want to go back to war. We want to go back to war in Gaza. We want to go back to war in Lebanon. We want to go to war in Iran. Netanyahu said they're building up their missile infrastructure all over again. It threatens us. They might preemptively strike us. We're seeking the green light to hit them first. A week later, you get a run on the bank. One of Iran's largest state-owned banks crashes. The currency crashes. Everybody takes to the streets, imploring Trump to help. And let me tell you something about those protests because it can't be said enough. Those are not protests. That's an armed insurrection, okay? When you see the Women's March, that's a protest. When the Women's March happens in the United States and all these women take to the streets with signs and hats, that's a protest. Those are Americans organizing on social media with their grievances. They assemble in public. They get their message out, they go home. That's a protest. This is an armed uprising. There are reports coming out of this country from the Financial Times, from other sources, Eyewitnesses on the ground in Iran said that there are men dressed in all black, armed with light weapons, meaning assault rifles, automatic weapons, and they were attacking government facilities. That's not a protest, okay? And where are the protests occurring? They're happening in Western Iran, in Kurdish majority provinces. Well, the Kurds are a transnational group. You've got Kurds in Turkey, in Syria, in Iraq. And all of these territories have a relative degree of autonomy. In Syria, there's a major clash right now because the new Syrian government in Damascus is trying to take back control over Syrian Kurdistan, which they call Rohingya, I think. Or maybe I'm confusing that with those Muslims. It sounds something like that. But there's this territory, I think that is the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. It has a name that's, I think it's like Rojava or something like that. It has a similar sounding name. Northeastern Syria is Kurdish Syria. It's controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces. That is a Kurdish force. In Iraq, in northern Iraq, in Iraqi Kurdistan, they have autonomy from the government in Baghdad. They have their own parliament. They have their own security force. Are you seeing a pattern? The government in Baghdad does not have control over Iraqi Kurds. The government in Damascus does not have control over Syrian Kurds. What does that mean? The Kurds are also allies of the United States and Israel. The United States and Israel armed the Kurds and fought alongside the Kurds in their war against ISIS, which took place in Iraq and Syria, obviously. And so the CIA and Israeli intelligence, the Pentagon and the Israeli military, they have a line in to the Kurds in Iraq and Syria. The United States just finished its withdrawal of U.S. soldiers from Iraq. That's not entirely true. They just moved them to their base in Iraqi Kurdistan. You see? So, you have these protests in Iran. They're very bloody, very deadly. Eyewitnesses on the ground say, well, the protesters are dressed in all black. They have machine guns. They're attacking government buildings. They appear to be coordinated. All the protests are happening in Western Iran, which are Kurdish majority areas. And they share a border with these semi-autonomous Kurdish territories in Iraq and Syria, where those semi-autonomous governments maintain military and intelligence ties with the U.S. and Israel and have been armed by both countries for over a decade. So what do you think is happening here? Well, it's obvious. This isn't a protest. This is an invasion. This is not a spontaneous uprising of the people because they're mad about the economy. No, this is a CIA and Mossad-backed invasion. They're clearly trafficking weapons to Iranian Kurds, probably through Iraq. They're coordinating using Starlink internet from Elon. They're coordinating with the help of the CIA, maybe trained by them. Maybe you got State Department NGOs on the ground. You got CIA on the ground. Maybe you have some of these mercenaries on the ground, some PMC, some private military corporation. And that's not a spontaneous demonstration. Oh, the people are crying out. It's a bottom-up revolution. No, this is a provocation. That is an armed insurrection backed by the West. And I told you the other week, this is how this works. So the United States has been operating in this territory for a long time, funneling weapons, training people, organizing them, facilitating the cross-border transfer, whatever. They give them the green light. All right, it's go time, uprising. These Kurds storm government buildings in Western Iranian provinces. That's where the action is happening. Western media starts to report. New York Times, Washington Post, The Journal, CBS News, they say, oh my gosh, Iran's security forces killing all the protesters. Well, the protesters are armed insurrectionists. The protesters, it's an armed uprising with foreign backing. So yeah, they're killing them. Yeah, they're shooting at them. It's not like they're shooting at the Million Man March in D.C. It's not like they're shooting at, they're walking across the bridge like MLK. They're shooting at what is effectively foreign mercenaries. But the Western media does their part, and they embellish it, and they say, deadliest crackdown, brutal crackdown, indiscriminate killing, screams and people crying out, body bags line the street. It's the worst violence ever. This is then amplified on social media. And then the opinion makers come in and they say, well, you know what? It would be better if Iran was a democracy. It would be better if Iran was a monarchy. Well, wouldn't it be better if the Islamic Republic fell? On the right and the left. On the left for the human rights, on the right because they say it's based, that we're bringing the Shah back, and, this is an Islamist government, and so on. And then this call for action makes its way up to the White House. And now Trump is being told, the protesters need your help. Amazing. So Western intelligence and military backs an uprising. Iran puts it down. Western media embellishes it and floods the zone on social media. They need your help. So now Trump is going to go in and help the protesters, bombing them with F-35s, bombing their internal security service, which protects the regime from these armed protesters, bombing Iran's missiles as Israel wanted so that Iran can't retaliate. And what this does ultimately, and let me tell you, here's what happens next. This doesn't topple the regime, okay? This is what is happening. Now, let me tell you something about regime change. It does not happen from a popular uprising alone. Okay, we've seen this. How did the government in Afghanistan fall? We invaded them on the ground with 100,000 troops, airstrikes, overwhelming force. How did we defeat the regime of Saddam Hussein? 300,000 coalition troops on the ground, shock and awe, airstrikes, superior intelligence, you name it. How did we topple Assad? 15 years of civil war. U.S. troops on the ground, backing the Peshmerga, backing the Kurds, backing al-Nusra, all these other groups that became ISIS, airstrikes. And it took 15 years to dislodge Assad. Now, Iran is a country of 90 million people. This is multiples, many multiples the size of Iraq, the size of Syria. You think a few airstrikes are going to dislodge this government? The country's a fortress. The country's a fortress. It's all mountains. And they built cities underground, not primitive tunnels, cities underground that build ballistic missiles, that enrich uranium, that do all these things. Fortresses underground. They have a 1 million-man army. They have the Revolutionary Guard. They've got air defenses, Air Force, Navy. They've got proxies. You think a few airstrikes and some street protests are going to topple the government? It won't happen. You need a rival group that can rally the country to its side. You're going to need a ground force, whether that's local or it's foreign-backed. You're going to need a sustained air campaign. A lot is going to go into this. This is not something where you go in, get out, you topple the government. This is a big commitment. And while you're going to war with Iran, they're lobbing missiles at everybody. They have ballistic missiles that you can't intercept. And they're going to be launching them at Israel. They're going to be launching them at U.S. bases. They'll be launching them, who knows, at every country that participates in this. Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar, who knows? And those countries know it. They're going to stay out of it. So what does this do for our allies? If we go into Iran and we're bombing them and this creates all this instability, Saudi Arabia is being pushed into the arms of Pakistan, Turkey, Iran. It's pushing all these other countries away, causing problems. And yet this is what we're signing ourselves up for. We're sending over a carrier strike group so that we can do a sustained air campaign. And when those forces arrive on January 23rd or 26th, I think is the window. I think the earliest that this USS Abraham Lincoln arrives is on the 26th. When this force package arrives in the next week, maybe you're going to get more protests. Trump is implementing these secondary sanctions, 25% tariff on any country that does business with Iran. This Southern Spear operation is taking these oil tankers. Many of them comprise Iran's shadow fleet. So we're increasing the pressure on their economy. Surely the CIA is active. Surely Mossad is active. We're moving a carrier strike group into position. Don't be surprised in February when you see our maximum pressure campaign will yield more unrest. And then we'll be there, guns loaded, locked and loaded, to go in and answer the call of the protesters and bomb the besieged, bomb the missiles, bomb government positions. And you know what will happen? It will not be decisive. There will be nothing decisive about it. You know what's going to happen? It will turn into Syria. We will be able to degrade the government. We can weaken the government. We won't destroy it. And all that will happen is we'll render Iran defenseless, take out their anti-aircraft, their air force, their missiles. And once they are defenseless and vulnerable, then it becomes an open airspace for Israel and the United States to bomb at their leisure. That is effectively what happened in Syria. That is what they want to happen here. They don't need to seek decisive action. They don't need to destroy Iran's entire governance structure. They need to render Iran defenseless so that Israel can just have free reign in that airspace, so that the jets can fly over Iraq all the time. And they could fly over Syria once this Jolani government makes peace with the Kurds there. They'll fly through Syria, through Syrian Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurdistan, and it will be a highway dropping bombs on Iran indefinitely as an armed conflict takes shape. And I imagine the country just destabilizes. And maybe Iranian Kurdistan becomes a base of operations, and the breakaway Balochistan province becomes a theater of conflict. Maybe it looks something like this. And this is Israel's endgame ultimately, is to decisively confront Iran, knock them off. They don't care if it takes 5 years, 10 years. They want to defeat Iran. They want regime change in Iran. They want to install a friendly government. At the minimum, they cannot have Iran projecting power in the region as an Islamist middle power. That's what it is. And that's what we're going for. And this, John Mearsheimer said it, and it went viral on, I think, Piers Morgan. He said, look, Iran is an Israel problem. They are not an America problem. The U.S. would have good relations with Iran if it were not for Israel. And that is 100% true. And we are absolutely shooting ourselves in the foot here. There's another scenario where the United States brings together Turkey, Syria, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and we control this region with these Muslim countries that are all coming back together. But instead, you might have, they're talking about a strategic mutual defense treaty between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Turkey wants to be in on it. They're creating a Muslim NATO without us, probably aimed at Israel. And it is backed up by Pakistan, which is China's Israel. Pakistan is China's closest ally. So we're sort of giving the Middle East to China. We're giving it to Israel. We're giving it to China. The Emiratis are warming relations with India. They're putting stuff in Sudan, in Somaliland. They're working with Israel. This is what is emerging in the Middle East. None of it good for the United States. So, you know, people call me a neocon now. Look, I support intervention in our hemisphere. I support intervention so we can get oil, drive China out of our hemisphere, get Greenland, put a golden dome early warning system in Greenland. Yes, that is America first. That has to do with our security. A protracted regime change war against Iran, keep us out. As a matter of fact, prevent it. Trump should use his clout and leverage to bring Israel back from the brink. Stop Israel. That's what we need to do here. That's America first. Throw our weight around against Israel. Get Europe to help. Israel's totally isolated from everybody. China's making Israel critical statements. The Muslim world is anti-Israel now. Even their relationship with Egypt is fraying. Their relationship with Europe is destroyed. Get together with Europe and the Muslim countries. Put those sanctions on Israel. You want to put a 25% tariff on Iran? Put a 25% tariff on Israel. Say stop. Stop in Gaza, stop in Lebanon, stop in Iran. What is in our interest is to stabilize the region. But instead, we're going to war again. We're literally doing it all over again. And I would bet you a lot of money that this is going to happen before the end of March. As they want to get this party started before the midterms. And the midterms are really going to kick off, at the end of spring, beginning of summer. So if I had to guess, I would say before the end of March, we're back. We're back there. And it's very clear. Trump is putting all these assets out there, and they're going there for action. There's not going to be a nuclear agreement. It won't happen. Because even if somehow Trump was able to re-engage Iran on a diplomatic level, as he threatened to do about a week ago, Israel would sabotage it just as they did a year ago. So that seems to be where we are inevitably headed. You want to talk about a war for Israel? It doesn't get much more cut and dry than that. And they're going to try to spin it every way. Get prepared for that. They'll talk about a based Iranian monarchy. They'll talk about the Shah. They'll say, well, it's over for Iran anyway. Wouldn't it be better if we got rid of this Islamic government? They'll say you're defending the Ayatollah. Get ready for that, because that's the next operation they're going to run. And they'll pretend like it's a done deal. Well, the people of Iran are just done. That's what they're going to say. They'll say, well, the people of Iran crave liberalism. No one believes in the regime anymore. No one's Muslim anymore. Whether we did anything or not, this Islamic revolutionary government is coming down anyway. We might as well support it. We might as well push it in. Like, that is how they're going to talk about it. That's how they've been talking about it. And it's a lie. Okay, it is a lie. The regime is entrenched. The regime is strong. They've got their economic problems. So does Cuba. Cuba has had economic problems for half of a century. They're not on the verge of collapse. They are, because we're going to push them over. North Korea. They eat rabbits. They eat rats in North Korea. They're not on the verge of collapse. It's a citadel. It's a fortress. People say, oh, well, the people of Iran are mad because the economy's bad. Dude, that happens all the time, okay? The only thing that topples an entrenched regime is if there is a violent opposing force that can rally more people, has weapons, fights a war, and wins. That is what dislodges regimes, not popular dissatisfaction, not the people have had enough, not a couple of airstrikes. Certainly would help. So people are acting like, oh, it's a done deal. Iran's ready for democracy. Like, these people are they've had it. Where have we heard this before? They'll greet us as liberators, they say. They'll greet us as liberators. All we got to do is go in, kill some bad guys. It's a cakewalk, and then it'll be a democracy and a new day, right? I mean, where have we heard this one before? They said that in Iraq. They said that in Syria. They said that in Libya. They tried it in Egypt. They had to do it a second time. It doesn't work. Anyway, so that's that. Keep your eyes peeled. I have a feeling we'll be talking a lot more about this next month. And it's funny, in a way. When this war happened in June, everybody said, oh, it's over. It's over. Remember when everybody made a big stink about this? Well, it's over now. I told you in June with absolutely no hesitation, I said, it will be back. Okay, this ain't over by a long shot. Here we are. Who could have predicted it? All right, we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this. I'm going to get set up here. And we'll take a look. A little bit of a slow news day. Not too much going on, but, Isn't that so typical? I go away for 2 weeks. One thing after another, Venezuela, the gets shot, and then I come back and it's like Trump gave a speech. They have a framework agreement. They're moving weapons to Iran. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what we got here.
Beth Murray 777 sent $20. Bellamy Salute 1892 to 1942. Authentic America first used to be used with Pledge of Allegiance. Bring it back and cancel their negative spin.
Why is this stupid ass thing? It's so quiet. I think our cable here is broken. I can barely hear the super chats.
All right, first things first, I got to start off by saying Nick is a real one when it comes to the whole situation with Andrew Tate and calling out PBD. I've been waiting for this. And I'm not even going to say I've been waiting for this, but I've been doing this. Y'all know, if y'all tap into a lot of the live shows as well as the other posts that I put up, when it comes to Patrick Bet-David, I don't know what Patrick Bet-David is on. It's hard to tell. It doesn't seem like he follows consistent principles. It seems like he's trying so hard to be accepted by these white elites. And it's like he will do anything to just be accepted in that crowd. Y'all probably been around people like that. It's like you're trying so hard. I don't know whether it's insecurities. A lot of times I question whether people, if they didn't feel good about themselves before they got money, it's like they're always chasing some sort of validation from a particular group that they choose is above who they currently are. So therefore, they want to always make sure that they're appeasing that group and held in certain regards. Like him telling Andrew Tate, I see you in this room. I see you in this room with these people. You see him in a room with Donald Trump, with Dana White. What is Dana White doing when it comes to like shaping the world and how we think? Dana White is a successful business person with UFC. He puts fights together, but that's not anything that's moving and shaping the way that we think as a society. Donald Trump, Nick is willing to call Donald Trump out. We need people with an energy that are willing to call Donald Trump out, not that just want to hang out with Donald Trump. And that's Patrick Bet-David's entire stance on a lot of this stuff. I knew that it was over when that Dan Bilzerian interview hit with Patrick Bet-David, and a lot of other clips have come out. I think there's one with him arguing with Pierce where he's against, wholeheartedly any support that we give to Ukraine. I believe that's what they're talking about. But then when Piers Morgan brings up Israel, it's like he's choking on his own words because he knows that what he's saying is not consistent. It's not consistent with the principles. Just be real. Oh, I like Israel because that benefits me business-wise. So therefore, I'll have a certain energy when Bibi Netanyahu's on here, but I'll wag my finger. You know what I mean? My energy when Andrew Tate's on, I'll wag my finger at him and hold him accountable for what? Get upset with him for what? For listening to a song. But you never seem to have that energy. And a lot of people are like this when it comes to the Miami Beach mayor, all these people that welcome Bibi Netanyahu with open arms, but then have problems with people like Nick Fuentes. Y'all got more issues with with symbolism when it comes to people making a certain gesture or listening to a certain song that is a troll song, even if however you look at the song, it's a song compared to people that are actually killing people. Why don't you tell Bibi Netanyahu you want to hit him in the same room as some peaceful leaders? Are you for peace? Or are you just for might is right? Because might is right is the reason why you're in America, right? You were fleeing something, as you always remind us that, your upbringing in the Middle East and you had to leave, you were forced to leave or whatever. So that same energy, might is right. Now you're aligning yourself with that when it comes to Bibi Netanyahu and Israel, and you consistently picking and choosing when to conveniently apply principles. Oh yeah, let's hold Tate to a higher standard than Bibi Netanyahu, who is a war criminal. That's like where Patrick Bet-David, and he got bullied into, I think he got pressured into bringing on Nick Fuentes. And for him, once it made financial sense, he just decided to do it. But even before that, when he was telling Nick, you say the N-word, so I don't want you on here. This is the goofiness of an almost 50-year-old. This person says the N-word so that I won't interview them. This person's committing an act of genocide, but I'll bring them on the channel. And then he'll brag, we were the only channel that had Bibi Netanyahu and Nick Fuentes within 30 days. And then Ben Shapiro canceled. Patrick Bet-David, because you're all over the place. You're all over the place. But let me not ramble. Let me kind of lock in on some of the notes so I'm not going on too many tangents. But I'm glad that Nick called out PBD, and I'm glad that he called out Adam Sosnick. And I'm glad that he exposed the conversation that him and Adam had in person, because Adam, and I was actually interested to see how Adam responds, because I don't know if y'all remember when Nick Fuentes went on Patrick Bet-David and Valuetainment, and he was Adam Sosnick. He used to brag almost, like he used to always compare Tucker to Nick Fuentes and say, well, I don't like Tucker, but I like Nick Fuentes because he just says that he's a racist. Tucker Carlson, he doesn't stand on it. He doesn't. because maybe Tucker isn't a racist. Maybe you just don't like when Tucker calls you out. Maybe it's a lot easier for you to stand besides Nick because Nick is going to use certain rhetoric. He's going to stand on certain things while Tucker's not going to allow you to box him in a particular corner. He's not going to allow you to paint him in a particular light. So you can justify and say, well, Tucker feels this way because he's racist, because he's an admitted anti-Semite. With Nick, it's easier for you, Adam, to align yourself with Nick because Nick has no problem with, hey, whatever you want to call me, cool. But then you'll be cool with him in person. So I'm glad that Nick exposed Adam like that. And I'm glad that he's putting pressure on PBD, who always tries to pick and choose when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I'm glad that Nick brought up this, I don't know if he came up with it, but this cry bullying. That's exactly what I think the Miami Beach mayor was doing. You're cry bullying, bro. You got no problem with certain documentaries or anything being put out if it's one-sided, as long as it's in your favor, pro-Israel Zionist agenda. But you have an issue and you send police officers to a person's home, a private citizen's home who actually served for America. Based on my knowledge, was a part of the National Guard, right? So actually serve for America, not serving in a mayoral seat where you get a little bit confused as far as like how this all works. You work for us. And that's another reason why we got to stop allowing these politicians to feel like they control us, like they set the agenda. No, y'all work for us. You don't get to just send police officers to a citizen's home because you don't agree with them calling you out about something wrong and lacking principle that you did with trying to get that movie theater kicked out of Miami Beach because they put out a documentary by Israeli and Palestinian journalists exposing the demolition of a lot of these homes that the Palestinians were living in. But it's cool when it's one side or the other way. You'll call out these clubs when it comes to, oh my God, they played a song about that disrespected my culture for 30, 45 seconds, but you'll never call out those songs and those music companies disrespecting the hell out of and contributing to a lot of the atrocities when it comes to other communities. But let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So Nick does it. Nick is still standing on it, doesn't believe it's a big deal, and he's also still standing on his support for Tate. Now, Tate, by the sounds of it, even Dan Bilzerian, I saw him post something yesterday where initially I think he went on and was talking about how with Sneeko that Andrew Tate, like, yo, I don't even know why he folded like that. But then he put up a tweet saying like, hey, I wasn't aware of everything that Andrew Tate still has going on, especially with some of these open cases. And if you have been illegally locked up or all these other things, it's not that I give an excuse to Tate or like anything that Tate said. And I think Nick made that clear, but I'm looking at it and I just like, oh, that's why he did that. I'm not making an excuse for it, especially not an excuse because I don't like how you did it. You tried to single out Sneeko and just throw Sneeko under the bus. And that's another thing why I rock with Nick. This is another reason why I rock with Nick. That's one of the realest things that he did on this episode, which he said, no, and it's not just Sneeko. He said Myron put it on. Clavicular was participating in it. I loved it. He didn't even leave himself out. He said Fresh had something to do with it. So he's calling, oh yeah, we all have something to do with it. And I ain't gonna let y'all just put this on Sneeko and let Sneeko take all the blame for this. That's a real one. There's not many people that are willing to all the heat's going to your man and you're gonna step in front and say, nah, it was all of us. Matter of fact, not just me, y'all too, who may be too scared to acknowledge it. It was y'all too. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that aspect of it. Let's keep it going. So yeah, once again, I already said that I liked how Nick was exposing the combos that he had with Adam, talking about Muslims and black people, because yesterday when he was talking about how Adam Sosnick disrespects black people on the show, I don't watch the show a lot unless it like there's a specific clip or interview. And even with the Andrew Tate interview with Patrick Bet-David, I only watched like the first 20 minutes. And then, yeah, like I just really don't enjoy their show anymore. But to each their own. But when he mentioned that Adam always calls out black people, I wasn't really like, I just hadn't seen that as much, but he was talking about it in a private conversation. And I would love to hear Adam respond to that, because you can definitely see that. We could see that. We could see that. And when Nick is already building the credibility from standing on business and not running and not playing the blame game and putting all the blame on Sneeko, it establishes even more credibility for us to believe in the story that he's giving with Adam. Just my opinion. All right, so let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. We already went over that. Nick calls out. Yeah, and it's like, Patrick Bet-David, is your only motivation money, bro? Like, is that the only game that you're playing in? That you think that, oh, it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you weren't accepted, if you're not accepted already, you're not going to get accepted. They don't want you in the room, Patrick Bet-David. You're begging to get in the room. They're probably laughing at you. Your insecurities are showing. It looks even worse when wealthy, maybe rich, whatever, however you want to categorize it, these wealthy people like just compromise themselves. They compromise their principles, bro. It looks worse than just standing on, just stand for something, bro. They're laughing at you. They don't believe you. They see exactly what's going on. They're laughing at you, bro. You'll be what do you want to be? Like the Middle Eastern token to all these elite? Like, what is your goal, bro? You already own part of the Yankees. Like, at what point do you get to where you just want to be a honest person moving with integrity and not selling yourself out for the next business deal, encouraging Andrew Tate? No, you need to be in this room. You need to be. Why? Why? Shoot, I want to get to a point. I tell you what room I want to be in. I want to be at the game and just my family and my people around, not having to make it a meat riding session for Donald Trump. Like, you could just tell what Patrick David wants. He just wants to be accepted by these people. And that's why hasn't been willing to call out Trump and to call out a lot of this other BS that we see happening when it comes to Israel and the genocide with Palestine or bullying other people in that region. We see where Patrick Bet-David stands on a lot of this stuff. And Nick calling him out, I think, hits a whole lot different than obviously me calling him out, or anybody else for that matter. So I'm interested to see how Andrew Tate responds to what Nick said regarding Patrick Bet-David and putting him in this position where you're talking about this situation with a song for 50 minutes. So I'm interested to see how it'll play out. All right, but let's move on. So we're going to talk about Greenland and Iran. So let's start with Greenland. Nick is calling Trump out for once again chickening out. Says that he was at the World Economic Forum, met with the Secretary General of NATO, and discussed the Greenland issue. The red line for the European Union and NATO is that the United States will never, that's right, never own Greenland. Nick was presenting something saying that we'll have, some sort of veto power over China and other, I don't know who else he said, as far as our adversaries wanting to do any business in Greenland or things of that nature, or maybe taking advantage of their resources, any business dealings pertaining to it. But as we take a step back and look at it, it's just another funny situation where Trump overplayed his hand and was talking with all that big and bold, perhaps American energy, and people didn't go for it. They called your bluff and they didn't go for it. But I have to say, and a lot of y'all were getting upset. A lot of y'all were getting upset when it came to, hold on, my dad's texting me, asking me, hold on. But a lot of y'all got upset when I was calling Nick out. When I was calling Nick out, talking about what? Talking about, hey, man, you getting all caught up in this rhetoric of Donald Trump. If we'll take Greenland, we're going to take it one way or another, all that bold energy. Nick was amped. And we have to remember, Trump is one of Nick's heroes. But see, that's the problem with rhetoric. That's the problem with rhetoric. It gets you on board emotionally, but then you're not looking at it from a logical standpoint. And then you get caught up in buying into Donald Trump and we're getting ready to take Greenland and you're pushing that type of energy. And then we see what? That it doesn't work. Perhaps America isn't the bully that we thought that we were, because Donald Trump has completely changed his tune. And what I would ask a lot of people is that if Trump moving like this, then who's not going to move like this? So for all this rhetoric of imperialism, when Nick is referencing the Monroe Doctrine, saying we could do whatever we want with Venezuela. If they can't protect it, take it. It's ours. Greenland, they can't do anything about it. Take it. So what are they going to do about it? That energy didn't work because they called us out on our bluff and they said, you know what? If y'all serious, don't worry about it. We'll have our European armies stationed there. Now what y'all going to do? Now what's the energy going to be? Oh, we think we can afford to just go against NATO while also going against what? Russia and China as well? That's when things may shift. So once again, I want to remind us, stop getting caught up in the rhetoric, no matter who we're listening to. Focus on the logic, focus on the principles, be led by those things instead of getting hyped up by the performative rhetoric that a lot of people use, that we listen to, and that we like it because why? It makes us feel good. It's emotional. It's funny. It's prideful, whatever it is for you, but just make sure that it's not misleading you. Just like if we call a spade, and I'm sure Nick would admit this, he admitted this on the last show that he was talking about a couple of days ago when he said Trump chickened out, that he was misled by Donald Trump. And that's the energy that we're feeling when we hear him talking about Trump. He's disappointed. He's angry. He's like, damn, like this guy, I just called him out for being a chick. And now it's like he continues to lie. He continues to manipulate me, and shame on me for continuing to get caught up in it. That's what I feel. Maybe y'all feel something different. So Greenland, I think we put out the offer. What was it, like 5.6 billion given to 5,600? I think it was, what is it, 5,600 residents? Or was it 56,000 something? It was like 100,000 for all the residents. I know that it totaled 5.6 billion. Or I believe it totaled 5.6 billion. I'm sure y'all will correct me. But they said, nah, not for sale. Within a week, Trump went from, yeah, we taking it one way or another. Who gonna stop us? Sneeko was doing the 6ix9ine impersonation. Give me that. Give me that. You don't know do it that. Remember, I can't do it as good as Sneeko, but it's funny. That's the energy that Trump was presenting himself with. Matter of fact, they had a whole bunch of AIs impersonations, like putting Trump in 6ix9ine, using 6ix9ine's voice, but doing the graphic with Trump. That's the energy that he was on. Take that. Like, give me that. Nah, you're not that. And what that also does is it makes us look weak to other people in the country. Now, when we're pressing all these other issues, talking about we're going to take this, take that, people are going to start laughing at us. People aren't going to be taking us seriously. And when you get your bluff called out, when you get your threat and that gets called out, you make a threat and it gets called out, and then the energy shifts because clearly we did not win this. What does that say to the rest of the world when it comes to America? Perhaps that's just another reminder that America ain't everything that we always try to act like we are. So let's keep it moving. And perhaps we just shouldn't be acting like that. Perhaps that's just those actions that we're carrying out are just things that we should never actually lean into. Like telling people we could just take their stuff because we're just bigger. Might is right. So let me see. Do I have anything else on Greenland? And Nick acknowledged that the deal probably got messed up because, Donald Trump was being too aggressive. So these are a couple notes that I had as far as Nick. You can tell when you hear him that he's reached this ultimate low when it comes to his perspective on Trump. It's like when your hero just disappoints you. I remember when Michael Jordan first retired, my room was decked out with Bulls, everything painted red and black. Like that was what my room was growing up. And when Michael Jordan retired, I tore every single poster down. I threw everything in the garbage, my comforter, the posters, everything went in the garbage. Why? Because my hero disappointed me. So I can relate to what Nick is feeling, but perhaps that's why we shouldn't be putting all of this stock in people and push them more towards principles. Perhaps that's why we shouldn't become fanatics and fans of people, especially politicians. Those are probably the worst people to become a fan of because it doesn't allow us to be as critical as perhaps we need to be. Now we're saying stuff like, oh, I like when Donald Trump says that we're just going to take their stuff. I like that. I'm cheering for it. It's based. Yeah, well, it also cost us the deal. Perhaps we should have approached it from a more logical standpoint, making a deal, offering a deal instead of going out there and just talking tough. Like, we'll just take it regardless. Iran, who knows what's going to happen with Iran? The Trump admin, as Nick said, they're now pressing for regime change. Like, what happened to no new wars? What happened to America first? What happened to a lot of people on that side acting as if it really meant America only, as if we were going to stop getting involved in all these foreign affairs? What happened to that? Well, I don't think it's surprising. What happens is we see the people that have been giving Donald Trump hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's carrying out the agenda that they want. Just like if I gave you $100 million. If I gave you $100 million, would you do what I asked? Okay. Or do you just think that Donald Trump is just so principled? Or do you think that Donald Trump, oh, he's already wealthy? $100 million, like Kodak Black said when he was making that song with 6ix9ine, I know the value of $1. $100 million still $100 million. Whether you got $100 million in the bank or whether you don't. $100 million is still $100 million. So let's do we need to dive into that anymore? Now, however, one thing that I do want to say when it comes to Greenland is that Nick did lay out from a strategic point of view as regarding defense against China. He pointed that out and presented the argument in a way where it's like, okay, I can understand where you're coming from, why it would be beneficial to have Greenland be a part of the United States. But once again, now that was all messed up because we got too caught up in the perception of our power. So I just wanted to make sure that I do point out that I can understand, I can listen to this argument. I'm not somebody sitting here just saying like, we should never do anything to defend anything. I'm not saying that. My energy is that we shouldn't resort to might is right. You could have put the deal out first instead of sabotaging it and having Greenlanders now jump on TV or go out there and protest, have the biggest protest in their history now for the world to see, and the rest of the European nations saying like, nah, we don't want that. We're not for sale. So, but back to Iran, it's like, who went on that rant, or not a rant, but who was very strong in their stance regarding us getting involved in all these conflicts? It was, I think, Tim Dillon, when he's like, yo, I don't care about Iran. And it's like, let's be very clear. I care about the team that I'm on first and foremost. I want every team to win in the league. I want to be seen as humanity. All this other stuff that y'all may hear me say, I'm still on board with all that. But you got to clean up your crib first. You got to clean up your crib first before you start interjecting yourself into other people's situations. Clean up your crib first. Your lawn ain't even clean, and you over there talking about somebody else's lawn. So clean that up first, prioritize that, and then move forward from there. That would be my recommendation. But our energy is what? We want to do Israel's bidding. We want to get involved in stuff that we have no involvement with. And I saw that clip that Nick was referencing with John Mearsheimer. I believe it was on Piers Morgan, in which Piers Morgan's trying to act as if we need to invade Iran for our own safety. No, it's not for our own safety. We have no beef with Iran. What issue do we have with Iran? Like, how many people have we lost based on Iran? How many U.S. soldiers have been killed by Iranians? Oh, well, they said death to America. They called us the big Satan. Look at what we're doing. Look at who we're supporting. What would we call somebody that was doing what Israel's doing in our region, trying to take American territory? What would we call that if China was doing it? You can understand that. We have no beef with Iran. The only reason why we have beef with Iran is because of Israel. So now it goes back to the whole Ted Cruz argument that Piers Morgan was making, in my opinion, which is, oh, well, we need Israel. They're our greatest ally because they give us so much. What do they give us? Oh, surveillance of the other countries in that region. Well, why do we need surveillance of the other countries in that region? That sounds like an Israel problem. That doesn't sound like a United States problem. And it sounds like we just inserted ourselves in that problem, aligned ourselves with Israel. Now, all of a sudden, we got a problem with Iran. Now, Israel wants us to go to war with Iran, just like they wanted us to go to war with Iraq, just like they want us to support their efforts to achieve this greater Israel project that they set out many years ago to create. And they want us on board to create it. And we're the dummies that typically get caught up in doing it. So, looks like we're getting ready to get into some pissing contest with Iran. And they don't, based on everything, you know what sucks about this? Based on, I think it's the Iranian president who I've seen interviews with, and that's when I ripped Patrick Bet-David because he presented something that the Iranian president said is completely wrong and misleading, never corrected it. When he was talking about, the Iranian president was saying, like, we're at war, like we haven't been attacked this way. And he was referencing a certain situation since Iraq attacked us. But then Patrick Bet-David read it as Iraq. This is going to be the worst thing since Iraq attacks the U.S., making it seem like it was a threat from Iran to us. But what it was is, no, the Iranian president was saying, no, this is the worst thing since Iraq attacked us, with all of these other people trying to attack us. I think he was talking about the European countries and maybe some others as well. But I don't get the energy that everybody tries to make it seem, or everybody tries to convince me of when it comes to the Iranian leadership. I don't get that energy. I'm not saying that they do everything right over there. I'm not saying that their standards and morals are above and beyond. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is, who are we to judge it? Who are we to judge it? Our standards are the best? Imagine somebody looking from afar at America. Y'all done killed one of your biggest political influencers, Charlie Kirk, for what? He got shot in the neck while doing a rally with college kids, amongst kids, right? Then what else? Look at how we did Donald Trump. You got Donald Trump going through his court trials. You know, now he's a convicted felon. You got Renee Good. You got people from afar getting shot in the head for what? Traffic violations? So my point is not to argue with y'all about Renee Good or this or that. The point is to say that, hey, propaganda can be very valuable. And a lot of times we are presented certain things for a reason, a particular way, in order for us to be complicit in some of the things that happen throughout the world. It's been happening since 9/11 and before that. I'm just talking about some of the significant things as far as when I was coming to an age where it's like, even though I don't understand politics, I still feel what's going on. So on that note, I think I'm going to get up out of here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the commentary afterwards. Doesn't matter if you didn't. Just still subscribe, turn your notifications on. That way we can control the algorithm. Y'all know what my big bro Robert always says. Let's make sure that we control the algorithm and do not allow the algorithm to control us. And let's just continue to convo, yo. Let's continue to convo. What are some of the things that you agree with Nick on? Some of the things that you disagree with Nick on? Some of the things that you're not even sure whether you agree or disagree, and do the same thing with me. This is how we grow. This is how we develop. This is how we never remain stagnant. And we always look for different ways and the best way to reach out and to reach people, and with the intentions of bringing more positivity into the world and the society that we're living in. So on that note, I'll let y'all go, and I'll see you on the next one. Ew. TB GITC. It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, L&G, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family. And they don't like that, strong fathers in the crib, BLM for dad. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that. I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.